Hey guys, this is Jennifer. I am going to show you today how to construct, actually to sublimate on ribbon and then construct that ribbon into a cheer bow. If you need some help with how to design that, lay that out for printing, I have a previous video that I did post in Sublimation Cove a couple of days ago. You can find that by searching in the group by my name, which is Jennifer Bryant. But today's video is going to focus on actually applying the sublimation and constructing the bow. So very quickly, I'm going to go through the supplies that you need. I have them laid out here. So first of all, you're going to need a ruler of some kind. My very worn out one works perfectly fine. You're going to need scissors. You'll see I have two pairs. One is for paper and the other is for fabric. You'll need a hot glue gun. You will also need a lighter. You'll use this to seal the ends of your ribbon so they don't fray. And then you're going to need, this is what I use. I know some people use thread, some people use pipe cleaners, other things, but this is what I use to kind of cinch in the middle of my bow. These are what I call zip ties. And they're labeled here as cable ties. These are the smallest ones I could find. They're 4 inches. I purchased these at Walmart in the hardware section. And really quickly, I'll kind of just show you what they do. They kind of like give you a third hand, to be honest. So you just slide one in and pull, and it clenches in. So it's super, super handy. I'm sure you can see that. Yeah. All right. So we got those. You're going to need a hair fastener of your choice. So if you are making them for any kind of athletic use, so for somebody who's playing soccer, cheering even, maybe playing baseball, softball, any of those things, then you're going to want to use a ponytail holder because typically in athletics, you can't have anything metal in their hair. If you're making them just for fashion wear or for toddlers, things like that, then my preference is an alligator clip just because it's a little more versatile. With an alligator clip, they can clip it at the top of a ponytail or they could clip it on the side of their hair. Useful tip that I didn't really think about, if I have a 6-year-old and I make a lot of bows for her to wear day in and day out, and she likes to part her hair to one side and do a side clip in of the bow, which if that's the intended use, it's helpful to know which side of their hair they part on so that you know which direction to put your clip so that the bow isn't upside down or on the wrong side of their hair. So let's go ahead and get to the ribbon part. So you can use either one of those hair fasteners that you prefer, okay? So the ribbon. We've talked a lot about what kind of ribbon to use. I think the most important thing for everybody to know is that you absolutely do not have to have any kind of specialty sublimation ribbon to do this, guys. This ribbon is what I use. I purchased it from Hobby Lobby. I used a 50% off coupon on my $3.99 a roll, giving it to me for essentially $1.99 a roll. This is grosgrain ribbon. You can get it from any craft store, so probably even Walmart, Hobby Lobby, Joann's for sure, probably Michael's. And this, you can see right here on the spool, it says 100% polyester. It subs beautifully right off of the spool. You don't need to treat it, coat it, prep it, nothing. Nothing. It's going to sub perfectly, okay? This is 3-inch wide grosgrain. Let me show you what makes it grosgrain. Do you see those fine, thin little lines there? This gives it a little bit of a stiffer texture, and again, it's 100% polyester, so that's why it subs beautifully. I have heard that you can also sublimate onto the satin ribbon, but it's really super shiny, and to me it's a little floppier, so it's not my preference. I have used a 2-inch wide ribbon. I don't know if you can really tell, but this one is glitter coated. Again, it's still 100% polyester, so it sublimates beautifully. I will tell you, it puts off a little bit of an odor, so you might want to have some ventilation when you press it. But this one I can only find it in 2 inches. You can use the exact same method I'm going to show you today to make one with a 2-inch wide ribbon. All the measurements are the same, but it gives a slightly different look. And you could also use this to make more of a boutique style that doesn't have the tails on it. So just keep that in mind. You're also going to need a 5/8 inch ribbon. Mine is grosgrain. This is to go in the center of the bow after we construct. So it doesn't have to be anything in particular. You could use a different color. You could use a different style of ribbon. But I just stuck with the grosgrain and in white. And I tend to use the white ribbon on the center of my bows no matter what color I've done them. But you could sublimate on this as well if you wanted to. So in addition to these things, of course, you need, your printer to print out the sublimations. You need sublimation paper. You're going to need a heat press. You'll need blowout paper, and you'll need parchment paper to protect your press. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to clear my space. Make sure my hot glue gun is on so that when we get to that part, all right, so the first thing we're going to do is cut our ribbon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out, and I'm going to go ahead and write this down so you guys can see that your ribbon is going to be 32 inches long. Okay, so we're going to cut this ribbon to 32 inches long. Now, that measurement is important because when I designed the sublimation print, I used that measurement so that I could design in 8-inch sections and 4 8-inch sections. So 8 times 4 is 32. Last time I checked. All right. So my ruler here is only 24 inches and I need to get to 32. So I'm going to do 24 and then I'm going to pull it again to 8 inches. Okay. Now, if you're off a couple centimeters, not going to hurt anything, but I'm going to go ahead. Oops, sorry for the wobble there, guys. I'm kind of doing the best I can. Okay. All right. So now I've got my ribbon cut. I leave it on the flat ends for now. I will show you after we sublimate and everything how I finish the ends. There are lots of different ways, but I tend to finish them the same way. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is take my 32-inch cut of ribbon and I'm going to match it up end to end here. And then I'm going to just firmly press the middle. And what I'm doing is creating myself a middle point. And that middle point is going to be where everything cinches up on the bow. So when I talk about printing my loopers, so the big loops of the bows, right? This is going to go right in the middle of the loopers, okay? So you see my nice crease? That's going to help us out a whole lot, all right? So I'm going to lay this to the side, and then I'm going to show you what my pages typically look like when I print them out. And then I've got one kind of pre-cut for us to go on. So this is actually 2 bows. Here I have my loopers. So these are to go on the loops. These are 2 8-inch sections, guys. And then these are my tail graphics. So I had a name and a bunny for one, so that this goes on one tail, that goes on the other. And then these were for to go with the sparkle glitter there, okay? So this is a 13 by 19 piece of sublimation paper. It easily prints out 2 bows. Sometimes I can get 3 depending on how much graphic I'm trying to get in there. Okay. So I've got what we're working on today kind of pre-cut. So one thing I want to say first is that when you cut out your looper pieces, make sure you leave some white trim on your long sides, okay? On these long sides right here. That's going to help you to actually be able to tape your ribbon down so that you get side to side full sublimation, okay? Then you're going to trim flush on the ends. So you want to trim, cut out flush on the ends. See, like I did here. So no white part on the ends, on the short ends, but on the long ends, I'm gonna give myself something to tape to, okay? So you'll notice on this one in particular that I have this little white line right here. I do that to help myself out. So what that does for me is gives me a very easy visual of where to place my creased middle, right? It does create a white space on the bow, but you don't see it after it's all cinched together. You can flush these up a little bit closer if you want to, totally up to you. But this just makes eyeing it so much easier for me. So I've got this all creased out. And now what I need to do is just unfold. Oh, unfold ribbon. And place that crease right there on that white line, okay? And then I'm going to take my, and I should have put this in my supplies, right? So you need some heat tape. Don't use Scotch tape, guys. Use heat tape. And I had purchased mine from Amazon. It's not terribly expensive. I think I paid a whole lot more for this neat little stand I just got today to hold my tape, which makes it so much easier. All right, so then I'm gonna start on my crease and kind of tape that in place. All right, and then I'm just gonna put a few pieces here and there. Now, I'm constantly kind of striving to make sure that my ribbon hasn't shifted, that I'm still on my print. You don't want any white lines on the sides, that didn't get any print. But that is why when we designed this, we designed the print to go wider. And see how it shifted on me there? I want to just move it over a little bit so I know I have room on the other side too. But we designed this print to be 3.15 inches wide, knowing our ribbon was 3 inches wide, so that we would have room to get that side to side full sublimation, okay? So I'm probably a little excessive with my tape, guys. You can go less, you can go more. I know some people use spray. I haven't used the spray. I just use the tape. I like the tape. All right, so I am going to take this to my heat press. I have a 15 by 15 heat press, and I actually lay it on my heat press diagonally, right? Because this is actually 16 inches in total where my design is here. So if I go diagonal on my heat press, I can press this 16 inches on my 15 by 15. Remember, when you place on your heat press to print with the paper up, I have known to do it the other way. It does not get as nice of a print if you don't put the paper up. And then make sure that you put blowout paper underneath, because this is going to blow out. I can tell you, you're going to have little thin lines. And if you're not protecting your bottom plate, that ink is going to blow out right onto your heat press plate, and you don't want that. So I am going to take this to the press, and then we will come back and do our tails, okay? Okay, guys, so I am back from the heat press, and I do want to just make sure that I tell everybody that I press these at 400 degrees for 60 seconds, each section. Again, do not forget your blowout paper. It's always going to blow out on the bottom, so make sure you have blowout paper there to protect your bottom press. So I'm going to let this cool just till the tape is cool to the touch, and then I'm going to pull it off. I think you guys can see this. Wait till you see just how bright and vivid that prints. Nice, huh? So it looks like, oh, I had a little run in it. It's okay. That's, did you see that flicked off right there is because there was a loose thread on the ribbon. That doesn't usually happen. That's okay. You'll notice once you get it all tied up that you can hide a lot of little imperfections. So just pulling all that tape off. Okay. See, this is my link sublimation paper. Took the sublimation very well. All right, so now when you go to assemble your bow, you're going to put your printed piece up like this at the top, okay? And then take your tails and pull them in See how it's starting to look like an awareness ribbon? That's what you want it to look like. Now, this is where your design starts to really help you. So do you see this faint line? That's the end of my looper design on the back end of the bow. So if I take those lines and I line them up just like this, then the next part is to take my middle line from my loopers and pull it down, and that is going to line up in the middle of my bow, just like that, okay? So do you see how the lines are really helping us out here? And then this is the tricky part, and you guys kind of have to fiddle with it. This method works for me. I leave mine flat on the table. I start from the bottom down here and just start to kind of accordion fold. I'm using the table underneath the ribbon as kind of my third hands. You can play with this, and then I just pinch it with my fingers there. Okay, so that's kind of what it's going to look like, and then we're going to do that. I'm going to show this to you one more time because we don't want to assemble our bow just yet because we need to decorate our tails, right? But I kind of wanted to show you how it's going to come together, and I'll show this to you another one more time at the end, okay? So, very important. When you see how it comes together, you will realize that when you press whatever design you're going to put on your tails, it needs to be on the opposite side of the ribbon as your loopers were printed on, okay? So if I have it all laid out flat, I don't want to print on this side, guys, because when I flip it in, that's going to be on the back. So I want to print on the opposite side, and I want to make sure that whatever I put on my looper, on my tail, gives myself room to cut my little V to finish out my tails. So I printed these two designs. So just a little cactus design on one side, just the little cactuses on the other side. It says can't touch this. So there are so many design options. I'll try to show you a few more of what I've done here at the end. But so now, quite simply, I usually move my design up about an inch. If you watched my tutorial on designing, I told you to keep this tail design, whether it's a name, a graphic, a saying, a phrase, whatever, keep that at no more than 3 to 4 inches tall, because if you go taller than that, when you gather your bow up, you're going to lose the top of your graphic in the gathers, okay? So even though this is 8 inches wide, this top part up here gets kind of scrunched in. So I've got that one, and then again, making sure I'm on the back side from my loopers. Make sure you put your graphic on right side up. And then I find it helpful on these because I try to maximize the width, right, when I can, to get it to use as much of the ribbon real estate as possible. So I will trim these pretty closely just because that makes placement easier. Again, I want to go about 1 inch up from the bottom, and I'll put my tail side by side so I know that my images are roughly aligned with each other. A lot of that I just eyeball. I'm not really a perfectionist. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, I guess depending on the day and the project, right? I actually think I got that on there kind of crooked, so that does bother me. Let me just... I'm trying to make sure you guys can see what I'm doing and keeping myself in the lines. Okay. All right. I think that's good. 2 pieces of tape on the design is usually plenty. I may put just one more just because of the odd shape here. All right, so then I'm going to take this back to my heat press, and I am going to tell you, I put it in my heat press just like this. So I don't put the loopers back into my heat press. I let the loopers kind of hang off of my heat press. I have tried it the other way, and I had transfer from what was already printed on my loopers onto my blowout paper, and you don't want that. So I just avoid it. All right, so I'm going to take this to the heat press. I'm going to press it for 60 seconds at 400 degrees, and then I'll be right back. All right, guys, so I've gotten back from the heat press with these, and I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that my tape is cooled off. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull off my graphic. See how cute? It's sublimated. It's very nice. All right, so there's both of my designs. So now we're ready to just put this bow together. And I showed you kind of a preview of what that looks like, but we'll go ahead and do it from start to finish, okay? So I'm going to put my looper side up, and then I'm going to bring my tails, see how it curves right here again, and I'm going to bring those tails over, and I'm going to line up where it's the design for the loopers stops. All right, and then I'm going to bring my center over. See how that center white line is helping you here? And then I am just going to pull that center down to the top of the crossover there, okay? So keeping it as straight as you can. Now, this is the part of the process that everybody does a little bit differently, guys. I use the table as kind of my third hand, so I'm going to leave it pressed on the table and use my thumbs to pick it up and start to kind of accordion fold, trying to keep everything centered up. All right, and then use your fingers to pinch that together. All right, kind of play with it a little bit. All right, now this is where our zip tie comes in handy. So let me get that. So might be helpful if you already had your zip tie out so you weren't having to. Okay, so now I'm going to take my zip tie, and when I put the zip tie on here, I'm not going to tighten it all the way up yet. This did take a little bit of practice to not let my gathers totally flop apart while I'm trying to get the zip tie. All right, so but I'm not going to pull it as flush as I could. See, I lost a little bit of my gather there. It's because I'm trying to stay in camera view. So let me just kind of scrunch back up, and then on the back I'm gonna tighten it just a little bit, but give yourself a little bit of flexibility in how tight you go, so that you can come out and go, oh, you know, are my loopers even? Maybe you want to tug one out a little bit, kind of play with it. Make sure you're getting everything, so because it's not totally cinched in yet, I can still tug and tweak. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. So now I'm going to go ahead and cinch that in as far as it'll go, just as tight as it'll go. All right, and then I am going to take my knot fabric scissors, guys, and cut the end of that zip tie off. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do is kind of line up my tails. So there's my tails. I'm going to line them up one over the other, making sure my edges are flush. And then I'm going to fold it in half this way. All right, and squish it together. So now what I want is to cut my little V's in my tails. So let me change from my not fabric scissors to my fabric scissors so I get a nice clean cut. And from the corner in, you're just going to angle it on like a 35, 45 degree angle. All right, so now they match, kind of. And see how it's not perfect. That's okay. You won't really notice it. It takes practice, and it's a lot easier to do when you're not trying to video. So this is where my lighter comes in. I'm going to take my lighter, and I am just going to run this lighter down the ends. And what that's doing is helping to seal your ribbon so it doesn't fray as bad. You see this ends here, it frays. If you don't seal it, now they do make a fray check spray at craft stores. It's kind of pricey, and I don't love it, but if you prefer that, you can. Do make sure you don't singe your ribbon. You can catch it on fire. So I've been known to do that too. All right, so now I've got my ribbon pretty much all done up, right? Looks like a bow. So now I'm going to take about 5 inches, and I'm really just going to eyeball this, of my 5/8 inch ribbon, okay? I'm going to cut this. I'm going to be honest with you guys, when I'm making a whole bunch of these, I just leave my 5/8 ribbon on the spool and I wrap it around while, and I don't cut it until I'm done. But that's just a preference thing. So, okay, now I'm going to take my hot glue gun, and you see this little notch back here where your zip tie ended? I'm going to move that so it's kind of at the bottom there, so it's not sticking out and getting in our way while we're trying to attach our hair device. So I'm just going to start by putting a little hot glue. Ooh, got a lot of hot glue. Right there at the back, and then pressing my 5/8 inch ribbon into that. Now, my fingers are made of like leather or something. They don't burn easy. I can stick my hands in like scalding hot water. So but if you're sensitive to that kind of stuff, you might want to wear some gloves or press down with something else. But I just firmly press that in. And then I'm going to take this and wrap it to the front and down. See how cute? And then I'm going to take my alligator clip or hair bow, right? And I am going to attach it right there. And I like to do mine this way. Yes, thinking about what side my daughter's hair is parted on. Okay, so now I'm going to put some hot glue down right there. My kids are getting pizza in the kitchen, so if you hear that rumbling around, that's what that is. And then I'm going to press my alligator clip right onto that. And I'm going to let it hold in for just a second, okay? Now, the next part is a little bit trickier because I'm using the alligator clip, I need to actually open up my alligator clip. You want to make sure this is good and dry first, okay? I'm going to open up my alligator clip, and I'm going to put some hot glue right inside of that clip, okay? And then I'm going to pull my ribbon from the front, and I'm going to pull it into the mouth of the alligator clip, and as tight as I can get it, and press it onto that hot glue that's on the clip, okay? And you want to hold your alligator clip open a little bit longer in case you had any glue ooze out from under your ribbon. You don't want to glue your alligator clip closed, okay? But then once that's kind of sunk in there, then I'll close that. And then I'm going to come back around one more time. And then I am probably just going to put a little bit of hot glue right here. Don't get it onto your clip, your alligator clip, okay? This is just to put the very end. Now make sure you're pulling this ribbon just as tight as you can get it, okay? So I'm going to pull it tight, and then I'm going to press that onto my hot glue. We're almost done. Okay, now to finish it off, I'm just going to trim that piece and trim it as flush as you can. So I didn't get as flush as I could have. okay if it kind of comes off like that, because then that last thing I'm going to do is take my lighter and seal up that last part, okay? So just going to check out the mechanics, make sure I didn't glue anything together. There, my alligator clip is still opening up. And there is my final product. Now, you can get some starch spray or some fabric stiffener and spray these so that your loopers stay a little bit more crisp. Totally personal preference.